Today, I would like to focus on some really fun calendars for 2022. It absolutely blows my brain that we're talking about 2022, but it's only a month away, not even a month away. And there are a couple of types of calendars that I'm going to show you. And I want to start with this one. This is a box within a box. And this was a lot of fun for me to try and figure out how to make the box that fits around a box that has a calendar. And I'm going to pull out what is inside, and you'll see that it's a calendar inside an acetate box. This is an acetate box that is sold by Stampin' Up. This is what they look like when they're empty. If you don't have one of these, don't worry about it. You don't need one. You will be able to make this perfectly well without an acetate box. But if you do have an acetate box, this is a great use for them. And I'm going to show you how to do this. And the first thing that we're going to do is actually, I'm going to go through and I'm going to show you how to build the box. So the dark blue. What I would kind of recommend is that you watch and don't try necessarily unless you want to. I'm not trying to say don't, but you may just want to watch, and then you can look at the video again and you can actually see how to do it. It's just kind of easier to watch it and then come back and actually do it. And I'm going to show you where we're going. This is what we're going to create. And it is made out of an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. And again, it was really fun. I'm definitely a math geek. And I had so much fun trying to figure out how to make this work. And I was thrilled when it could be done with a piece of 8.5 by 11, because it opens up the options. Cardstock, designer series paper, whatever you want to use, you can easily do this. And don't freak out. Don't leave me. Don't run away. This will make sense. And I'm going to send this, and it will be a file that I send. These are my own directions of how to make this so that we can actually make the box. And it's really very straightforward. So we're going to jump in. I'm going to use a piece of 8.5 by 11 paper. Going to get this blue out of the way so you can just look at the paper. I think this is Rococo Rose. I'm not really sure. It really doesn't matter. The first thing that you're going to do, and this is the only cut that you need to do in your trimmer, is on the 8.5 inch side. You're going to just cut off 1/4 inch. And what you're going to end up with, obviously, is a piece of paper that is 11 inches wide by 8.25 inches high. And that's actually what we're going to use to make the box. And we're just going to stick that paper into a scoring board. And I'm going to show you where the scores need to be made. And this is where this little cheat sheet comes in handy, because you will see it is 8.25 by 11. So on the 11 inch side, I am going to make 4 score lines. They're going to be at the 3.25, or I'm sorry, 3/4, 5.25, 6, and 10.5. And again, I will post this, but it's my little cheat sheet because my brain is incredibly full. But I'm just going to do the 3/4 inch line. And what I'm finding, especially when I start scoring like this, is I just have to be a little bit slow in doing my score lines because I don't want them to go off track. So that was 3/4 inch. I'm going over to 5.25. Just going to drag that down. So 5.25. The next one is going to be at 6. And in case you like math like I do, that is 3/4 of an inch between the 5 1/4 and the 6. So that's how we're going to get a 3/4 inch depth on our box. And the last one is over at 10 1/2. So again, the 4 score lines, 3/4 of an inch, 5 1/4, 6, and then 10 1/2. And then turn your page 90 degrees and have the score line that's showing at the top, the one that you made at 10 1/2. So it's going to be at 1/2 inch down. It just makes it a little bit easier when all is said and done. And on this side, we're going to do 3 score lines. One is going to be at 3/4 of an inch. The next one, see, that's what happens to me. Sometimes I get these off track, but that's okay. I will forgive myself. So 3/4 of an inch. The next one is at 1 1/2. 1 1/2. And I'm just going to go down that twice. And then the last one is going to be at 7 1/2. And again, for the math people, I know you all love math. It's 3/4 of an inch in from the edge. So it's at 7 1/2. There is rhyme and reason to this craziness. All right. You now have all the score lines that you are going to need to make your box. And just like you normally do with any kind of box or 3D, you're just going to make your scores. So you're going to go ahead and score and fold this. Now, when you are doing boxes like this, and I say boxes like this because we are going to put this into our die cutting machine, that will become apparent and you will see why in just a minute. I don't recommend that you use super, super thick cardstock. I don't recommend that you use it because we're going to be doubling up on the thickness when we run it through the die cutting machine. And you may find that you really need to push if you use super, super thick. So I'm using regular old Stampin' Up! Cardstock on this. Designer Series paper, I think should be pretty useful and pretty good. You will come up with some really, really pretty patterns. And just don't use anything super, super thick. So if I put this back down on here, we're going to see that I now have the pattern that's on this page. And I want to just explain what all my little shortcut things mean. Anywhere there's an X, you're going to take that complete square off. You're going to cut it off completely. And I'm going to start with some of the ones that I'm going to literally just cut off. So one of the ones that I'm going to cut off is the one down here in the corner. This is on the end. This is going to be our bottom. The bottom has 1 score toward the bottom. The top has 2 scores at the top. This is the side that we scored at 10 1/2. So this is just a 1/2 inch. This is completely extra. So all you're going to do here is you're going to take your little snips and you're going to cut that one completely away. You don't need it. Then just like any other box, we're going to make sure that we have the tags that fold in. We're going to make sure they're free. So what I'm doing here is I am cutting up, and now I have the bottom flaps that when we put them together, these are going to come together. The 2 flaps that are small, I'm going to miter, and don't get hung up on whether the miter pieces are the same size. It doesn't matter. What you're just trying to do is get a little bit of that paper off the side because it will work so much better it will have so much of a better finish on the bottom of your box. So this is what we're cutting to build. The bottom of your box will look a lot better when you cut it like this. So here's the bottom. This is gone. These two are mitered and everything is cut up to the score line at the bottom. Now on the top, and I'm just going to put this so you can see how we're following the pattern. So on the bottom, that's gone, that's mitered, that's mitered. My little pink lines mean that you cut up. So you're cutting straight up. Now let's look at the top. We are going to cut off quite a few of these pieces, and I'm mirroring my little cheat sheet up here. I want that box gone. That one goes away. That one goes away. These two go away, and these two, that one goes away. I strongly recommend that you mark what you're going to cut off before you cut it off, because if you do that, you don't even have to think. You don't have to worry that you're cutting the wrong thing, and you're going to be very confident when you take scissors and you start with those cuts that you have it correct. And I've made the mistake of believing that I know what I am cutting off, come back to a pattern and realize that I really messed it up. So I've learned from my mistakes and just wanted to pass that along as a good tip. And all I'm doing here is following my own directions and cutting off the little pieces that had the X's on them. So again, let's check in with our pattern, and we can see that everything has been cut off. If I even bring this up and I lay it right on top, everything that I took off with the X's, they've all been taken away. So now the next thing is I need to cut into these little tabs. So I'm just going to turn this upside down so you can see what I'm doing. I need to make sure that this is free because that's going to be a tab on the top. And I need to make sure that the one over here on the right is the tab on the top. All right, so what's going to happen is when we put this all together, this is going to fold down, fold in. It will actually work like this. So just like a normal box that you close, you're going to have these two little tabs that you're going to pull in, and then you're going to have a flap that will close. And that's what we're building right now. And the only thing that we need to do to finish this off is we need to miter. So again, checking in on my little cheat sheet, I need to miter this tab, and the flap. And the miters are with these fun little pencil marks that just give me that cheat sheet of how to do it. I'm just going to come in. Sometimes if you hold your flap back, you can see the little tabs a little bit better. And again, don't go crazy that if each piece of your mitering is a little different, it doesn't matter. It's just going to make things work a little bit better. And then the last one that I need to miter is the flap that's going to go in on the top. I'm just going to miter that. And I am going to miter that. So now if I take my final piece and I lay it down on my template, you're going to see that I have mirrored everything that I need to do. And I have the piece ready to go. This is what's going to make the box. But before we do that, let's just pause because there is one thing that I want to do before I make my box, before I put any adhesive glue or whatever I'm going to use. And that is I want to make a die cut in the front. That is going to allow the calendar to show through in that hole. The way to do that, and I've made a little cheat sheet, is right here. So it's the little star thing that says cut the die opening on this panel before you put the box together. And it's really easy to figure out where you're going to make that die cut. It's going to be on the panel that has the top flap. So it's going to be right in here that you're going to do your die cut. You can do any kind of die cut that you want, anything, with one caveat. And I'm going to explain what that caveat is. So we all probably have about the same width in terms of what will go through our die cutting machines. This is just a standard platform. This is right around 6 inches. And that's how the die cut is going to be fed through. Well, let's see. That's not going to fit on a platform. But the beauty is that if you take your box piece and you actually put your tabs, you tuck them like this. And on the top, on this one, you're going to tuck it so that you fold it twice. You're going to be able to get this through your die cutting machine with absolutely no issue. Trust me, I've done it. And what you're going to do is you're going to use whatever die cut or die you want. I chose a square because it was the easiest thing that I could find. And it works well with this particular calendar. It's a great size to show that month. And what I did, as you can see, this now fits on my platform. I'm holding that platform underneath. I took my die, I put some washi tape on it to keep it nice and where I wanted it to be. And I just put my plate on the top and I ran this through my die cutting machine. And through the magic of Zoom and being able to get this done ahead of time, you're going to see a different color, but it's exactly the same thing. I used this die, ran it through that process that I just showed you. Obviously, I have a piece that came out from my template, and I'm ready to go. So here's my box. I'm ready to put it together. It's that straightforward. And like I mentioned, you can make this with designer series paper or whatever you want to do. So let's put this together. The first thing we want to do is we want to construct it into a box. We want to attach this edge to this side. I'm going to use liquid glue. I am not a fan of tear and tape on these kinds of projects, and the reason is if you use tear and tape and you put your paper together, you're done. You're not going to be able to move it. I like liquid glue on this, and it just gives you a little bit of forgiveness. I am putting my glue on the 1/2 inch, and this is easy to see which side. It's the one that doesn't have the flap at the top. It's the side that is going to have the narrower edge. I'm not going to put glue all the way up at the top here. I brought it in a little bit, and the same thing down at the bottom. And then I'm simply going to fold this over. And because the measurements are correct, hold on. There we go. All right. So we're going to go ahead and here we go. I'm losing my mind. I'll get rid of that glue in a minute. So I folded it at that second crease. Sorry. I usually do it the other way around. I know I'm making an excuse, but that's the best thing I've got to say right now. So if you fold that over, then you're going to get your little box, and it's all going to be nice and even. So there we go. We've got our box all together. Then we're going to do the bottom of the box. You don't want to glue the top. The top is going to be made so that you can open it again and again and again. But I'm going to do the bottom. And again, the way you find the bottom, it doesn't have this big flap. It just has a couple of little flaps. And what I like to do is I like to figure out what's the front of the card and this, or the box. This is easy because the front is where the hole is, which means I want the front flap to be the one that is going to go down last. It just gives it a little bit more of a clean finish because you're not going to see the piece that is going to get glued. It's just going to look like a kind of like a waterfall on a counter. It's going to be continuous. So I'm just going to hold it so that I know that I'm looking at the back of the box. And what I'm going to do here is get my liquid glue. I'm going to put a little drop on each of those tabs. I can't do anything with those right now. I'm going to hold those down. And then the piece that I know is on the back of the box, I'm going to bring that over. I'm going to add some more glue to that. And again, I'm not going to get it super close to the edge because I don't need to. I just need to put it on the actual flap. And then I'm going to bring this together. And because it's a rectangle, I have a really good idea of how to square it up to make sure that it looks like a box. And what's kind of cool is since there's a hole in the front, I can go in and with my finger, I put those little dabs on the tabs and I'm just pressing them down so that they're going to stay on the bottom. And then the top, you don't put any glue on the top, but you can pull your tabs in and then you can actually close it like you would just a normal box. All right, so that's the outer box. Now let's talk about how to make the calendar that will go into the acetate box. And there are just a few steps for this. And the steps really involve cutting down the calendar that is available in a PDF file. This is a PDF file that Concord and Ninth, a very well-known, very popular company that has a lot of crafting elements, gave us. And this is a free download, and I will include that also in the information that I post about this project. The PDF that I put together and I sent to our group, I actually did 2 PDFs. The one that Concord and Ninth has does not have the months written at the top. It leaves the months off intentionally because there are many stamp sets and other ways that you can add the months. I added the months back in a PDF that I sent, and I also sent the original. So there are 2 versions that folks in the Stamp Club have. Regardless of which calendar, because I'm going to show you one other option, but regardless of which calendar you make, this is the first step to use the PDF. You're going to see that there are vertical lines. You've got 3 vertical lines top, 3 vertical lines at the bottom. They are visual clues and cues. So the first step in any of these that you do is line up the vertical line in your cutter. I'm just going down the one in the middle. And then for each of the months on that page, line up again where that vertical line is and cut this. This is scrap. You can just go ahead and throw that away. And then the other month that was on that page, I'm going to do the same thing. So I've just cut that piece off. And what I'm left with are 2 months. And each of these is the same size. These are 8.5 inches long. And I don't remember the width, which really doesn't matter for the purposes that we're going to be talking about here. But what I do know is that when I get everything cut and I want to put my calendar into this acetate box, or if I don't have an acetate box and I want to put the calendar into the box that we just made, I know what width and what height works in here. And I'm going to show you how to cut these to that size. So what we want to end up with is we want to end up with a piece that is 4 3/8 inch wide and 5 3/4 inches high. It's just, that's what works. And what I found is when you cut these pieces, and I'm just going to use one, the way to get to that size, there are just a couple of steps. I'm going to bring out my trimmer again. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut 1/8 of an inch off one side. And when I say side, I mean when I'm looking at the calendar. So on the side that has the most length, I'm just going to cut off 1/8 of an inch. I'm just trimming it up a little bit. And then I've already mentioned, I know this needs to be 4 3/8. Okay, well, now I'm going to make it 4 3/8, but I'm going to cut off what I need to from the other side. So I'm pulling that over to 4 3/8. And essentially it's right about 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to take that away. And then the last thing I want to do, I need to make this 5 3/4 inches high. And the way that I've designed this box is the height at the bottom is fine. I don't need to mess around with that because that's going to work really well when I put it into this box. The calendar from the bottom is going to show, it's going to work well to meet right down at the bottom of the box. So I need to take it off this side. Well, if I want it to be 5 3/4 inches, I'm just going to put it at 5 3/4 and I'm going to whack it off. If you want to save these pieces, definitely do. They're a nice size if you need scrap for any kind of stamps or any other projects that you might do. And there you have it. That is the size that will fit into the box. And I will show that to you. So this is one of the acetate boxes. These are really made to be used for A2 cards. They work really well. You can actually put envelopes in also. And a couple of things that I wanted to mention, if this is one of the ways that you use the calendars. When you put the months into the box, this is going to sound counterintuitive, but put them so they face, I'm going to call this the back. This is where the flap is tucked in. Put them in so they're facing the back. This will make sense in a minute. And then when you put all your pieces in, you're going to have 12 months or however many you choose to put in here, and you close it. When you put this into the box, and this is why you're putting it kind of backwards, you're going to put the box in so that the month is going to face out. It's going to show through your little die cut. Let me just get this so it's cooperating with me here. There we go. So I'm going to put my box inside my box. And because I've put it in backwards, I put that acetate in backwards, I don't have anything here competing with me being able to close the box. If I had put it the other way around, I might actually put this flap into the acetate box, and it's just a little bit painful to do that. And you can see that month shows really nicely right in the middle of that. The other thing that I will mention is that when you put 12 months worth of calendars, if you use, I use just regular old cardstock when I printed everything. Those months are not going to fill up your box. And you'll see here that the months are actually, I would say they're probably 1/4 of an inch, 3/8 of an inch. So you can imagine that they're not going to necessarily just always be in the front when you go in and you change them out. I just put a couple of, I used scrap. I used one of the pieces that was a scrap piece from when I was trimming down the calendar. And I made 1/2 inch score lines. And I just made a little tube, little column. And I put that in the back. And that way, that column is pressing on those calendars. And it's going to keep those calendars in the front. So what you would do, I know this is an obvious statement, is every month you would just open up your box. You would take out whatever month you had been looking at. You would flip that to the back and you would have the next month all set to go. And I think this is just a really, really fun, easy way to create a nice little gift. I really like this because all the months are in a container. And the person who receives it, or if it's you who is using it, you're not going to have to remember where you put the months, where you stored everything, because you're going to have everything exactly where it is. Now, I just want to show you that you don't need that acetate box. I am putting the one that we just made. There's no box in here. I would put something behind when I put all those months in here. I would put something behind them just so that they would actually be up at the front. But you don't need that acetate box. You can use these just as they are. And then the sky's the limit. Whatever kind of decorations you want. A bow would look really cool if you tied it, at the top, and just make sure that it doesn't get in the way of the mechanism to open and shut the box. So just a really, really, I think, a fun way to make a calendar. It will also stand up. And if you do get one that's a little front heavy, if you put a lot of decorations on the front, you may find that it might want to tip a little bit. And it's really easy to put it on a little stand, the ones that you have for plates and other things. And you can put that on your desk or really anywhere. It's just a really, really cute little calendar. So that's the first one that I wanted to show you. I am actually going to stop the recording because the second one that I'm going to do, I want to make sure that people don't have to go through multiple videos to see. So I'm going to stop this one and then I will start up another one in a couple of minutes and we're going to do another version. But I really hope you try this. It is so much fun and you're going to find that there's so many designs and so many people. You can really personalize this as well.